Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pretty Badass podcast. I'm your host, Autumn. I'm so excited to welcome Rafael Parra. He is the founder of The Boys of Tomorrow.
No matter the wave I'm riding, tell me have you decided? 'Cause either way I'm vibing.
Thank you so much for being here. So I really want to get to know your background before we get into your nonprofit, The Boys of Tomorrow. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. We have met through Tricia. We have a common friend, a friend in common. I worked in technology for the last 10 years, always within the creative space within technology, if you like. Most recently, I moved to LA about a year ago where I was working at Meta at the time. Now I am
Facebook Meta?
Facebook
Okay.
Meta, yeah. And now I'm part of I have two businesses, if you like. So one is a nonprofit, but on the side, I'm doing creative consulting for high net worth individuals, celebrities, social media strategy, and that's where I'm spending most of my time now.
Nice. Well, I know we have some things in common, modeling, acting, but specifically why I thought you'd be a great fit is our mental health journey. So you shared a story with me, something that happened to you, I guess, in the corporate tech world. And it was something that I could relate to. And I was wondering if you wanted to share that.
Of course. I worked at Meta, Google, Gartner, Deloitte in the past. So it was at a large firm. I'm not going to say which one, but okay. I had a line manager that shared the same role fundamentally as me. So we were revenue managers, account managers looking after a region, and therefore shared a quota, and we were in charge of growing revenue for that business. I was the only one that reported into him, and I often outperformed him. And I think that, I know that he had a problem with that. I was much younger. I was in my 20s and living my dream job at the time. And he was...
Where was this?
In London.
In London, okay.
Yeah. I looked after the Middle East as a region, and I was often in and out of Dubai. And basically, to undermine my position, he outed me to the Dubai office, which...
As being gay?
Yes.
Okay.
And
that could be obviously, hindering to you traveling to a country that is maybe not as accepting. So, okay. Yeah. I see where you're going with this.
Well, under Sharia law, homosexualism can be deemed, the death penalty is the ultimate. So it can happen. And I was in and out of Dubai. I had to manage local partners that sold our technology locally, that I had to sort of manage and tell them what to do. And the dynamics really shifted.
Wow. Yeah.
And I no longer felt safe to travel.
Yeah.
there.
I mean, that really did put you in danger. So what happened after that?
Well, that was, I think, the tip of the iceberg for me, or the largest event in a series of smaller events that happened throughout our interactions in the office. And I went to HR finally, I think 2-3 years after it happened. I didn't feel strong enough to do it at the time. I didn't have the support of my colleagues at the time. And an investigation happened. It came back inconclusive. He got pushed to the Paris office. But it felt empowering to be able to speak up and share, this is not okay.
So you finally did share?
Yeah, 3 years in. But yeah, that was a different team at the time, but yeah.
I mean, for me, I told you a little bit about my story, but, I never spoke up about it. It happened to me 10 years ago. I mean, I did start to speak up about it. I had lawyers involved, and I can't say the name of the company, but it was kind of pushed under the rug, and it came about because I had posed for Playboy, and at the time, my boss, which I had always feared that this would, come up in different kind of corporate environments, because I almost felt like I had two parallel lives. I had this very professional life that I was pursuing, but also I had, and I still have, and I guess that's why even it's a little worrisome now, even with the podcast. I do wonder if I still have this corporate job. Are they going to, are my clients going to find out like all the deep, dark secrets of me? And is this going to compromise my position? But at the time, I looked at the things that were happening to me, like sexual harassment, as things that were my fault, things that maybe I deserved because of the modeling jobs that I had taken in the past. And it got as bad as, I would constantly, and I'm sure that you can relate, it's like you start to justify behavior, and then maybe you're afraid that, well, if I speak up, then I'm going to lose my job. Or if what if someone doesn't believe me? Or like you said, you didn't have the support of your colleagues. And so for me, I actually spoke up and then decided at the same time to actually resign from my position. And at the time, the HR community really was supportive, because they were like, it doesn't matter what you've done, Playboy doesn't define you. And if you're naked on the internet, it doesn't give someone the right to hurt you. And so this person was pulling up things on the internet and saying, oh, well, I can do this to you because this is something that, if I can pull up a naked photo of you on the internet, then clearly you deserve this. And it escalated into them firing him. I actually had recorded some video of him doing some things to me, trying to break into my hotel room, threatening my life. And, even with all of that evidence, them getting me a security guard when I was on the premises. And I can't 100% say that it was him, but I received feces in the mail. And I mean, I know you and I spoke about it, and it, it really affected my mental health. I mean, when something like that happens to you and you are left with a decision of, do I leave my career, which you said it was your dream job. For me, it was not my dream job, but it was the first time that I felt recognized intellectually. So I felt like I had arrived at some point in my life where I wasn't just a pretty face. And then to be reminded of, well, you really just are, and you're disposable, and I can treat you however I want to. And literally like threatening my life, and then doing something which oddly enough, the feces in the mail was more damaging to me than even threatening my life. I'm not really sure why. And, I probably should work through that. I still, like, when I think about it, but I was suicidal when that happened to me. And so during that time when you were going through that, and did you leave your position, or did they let you go? What happened?
But firstly, I got to hear this story before, but now that you're telling it again, like my heart goes out to you,
Thanks.
Autumn. You went through so much. It's not easy, and to recover from, trauma, I'm sure. I mean, I read your book. There's a journey to being the pretty badass that you are today, and I love you for it.
Oh, thank you.
I felt strong only 3 years after it happened, when I managed to convince colleagues that were in the presence of things that were being said and happened to be on my side. And I think we were all so young and fearful of somebody that was much more powerful and older, and we didn't want to get in trouble. And, I felt alone just as much as you did, and scared. And somehow, because of I knew that I was gay, I thought maybe it was, somehow my fault.
Your fault.
And exactly what you said. And
it gives me chills. It makes me so sad, because so many people fall into this, and they, it does affect them in so many different ways. And so I'm glad that you spoke up.
And look, I relate to the modeling job that you had, because pretty much I look at it as a job that you booked at the time.
It was a job.
And it doesn't define who you are. And I know I worked in fashion, and after going to the corporate world and having that feeling, right? Like, I've made it, or I changed my career, and feeling, leaving this large company that I dreamed of working for wasn't an option. So I guess I had to endure quietly, and I had the support of friends, but it definitely sent me to a very bad place too.
Well, I'm glad that you spoke up. I'm sorry that it remained inconclusive, but I'm sure that in some way that it must have been, healing to know that you were able to speak up for yourself. And then, is this why you started your nonprofit?
In a way it is, because so let's call that episode, adversity experienced due to my sexuality in the workplace. And I now am able to live authentically. I've recovered from that. And in heart-to-hearts with gay friends over the years, I often heard many accounts of adversity, big and small, right? From bullying to homophobia to things that might have happened to them in their childhood or in the workplace as well. And I remember listening to the stories and feeling very inspired by these men that I admired. But at the same time, I felt I'm in such a wonderful place now. It took me a very long time to get here, that maybe teenagers should be, listening in. So the nonprofit is aimed at fundraise for LGBT causes later this year, but we're starting out as a global community of voices on Instagram, where I invite friends and people sending in their stories to really inspire the new generation, and that's really the name. So the boys of tomorrow are us, really supporting queer youth of today.
I saw that you're working with some pretty cool people.
Yeah.
So do you want to share any experiences or like what you're doing with them?
Living in LA, it's fascinating because, you go to the gym and you meet, wonderful people. And in my gym in particular, I met so many influencers that I followed in Europe. And what I admired in their own pages, on their own Instagram or TikTok, is that everybody that's in the public eye, and if they identify as LGBT, they look to do activism in their own page, and I think it's wonderful. So what we're creating here, it's almost a one-stop shop for a place of inspiration, a safe. Comments are disabled, people can share. There's a type of post that I call a love letter to your younger self. Write that. I find
that is the most cathartic thing that people can do. Like, if you haven't done that, and you are struggling with anything, I think a lot of us are, and maybe we don't even admit that we are, but that is one of the most powerful things that you can do, is writing a letter to your younger self. So I'm so happy that you encourage that. And quick little thing. So I rejoined the gym again, and I saw you working out the other day. So
you did.
I'm back at Equinox.
Nice.
So I was on the stair climber, but I was having this very rocky moment, and I had my hoodie on with my music, and I saw you over there, and you were just like lifting your weights or something, like free weights. But no, you look so cute, and I was like, I need to go over there and say hi. But then I was like in my moment. So next time I'll come say hi.
And the gym is the worst place, right? Because everyone is sweaty and tired. And
No.
But we live so close, so we should definitely go get a smoothie after.
Yeah, smoothie workout. Next time, I promise I'll say hi. So you mentioned diversity, and you've worked with a lot of really big companies, Meta, Facebook. What were you doing at Facebook? You were working with the diversity department, or what exactly was that?
So we had a diversity and inclusion committee that ensured that D&I initiatives were reflected on the platform on Facebook. So before Black Lives Matter, this was at the end of 2019, this group got together, and I'll bore your audience, but basically I need to explain the way technology gets developed or features get developed for Facebook. It's really firstly aimed at, fixing bugs that are on the platform, and then things that are impactful across the world for many users. Then they look at revenue. So when they're looking at feature development, there's a roadmap of features that get put in a cadence However, if a feature may not deliver as much ad revenue, or it's not a global client that controls hundreds of millions of ad money being spent, it's really hard for those features to get prioritized. So the diversity.
Is this how the algorithms come into play? Because everybody hates the algorithm. So you're not boring us. Can you give us a little insight on this algorithm?
I have the secret sauce right here. I actually brought it.
Everyone's like, this algorithm. Like they're getting so upset with the algorithm. And so, yeah.
You have a massive following. I'd say you're a master.
But, I can't figure out the algorithm either. Sometimes my stories are getting thousands of views. And then sometimes I'm like, only 150 people like me. I'm like, how? I don't understand. It's like, it goes just the ebb and flow. I really can't figure it out. And sometimes I think, I'm like, is it because there's drama? Am I the drama? And then sometimes it just takes off. I can't really figure it out. So I'm doing okay.
You are.
But it's hard to build new followers. Like I'm good at maintaining. I really try to get the engagement, but it's really funny because even I put a story and I say, hey, you guys, can you comment on this video? I really would love to see the feedback of the podcast. And like people, and I specifically say, write it in the comments on the video and they will DM me. And I'm like, I love you guys, but please. I'm like, that definitely helps the algorithm.
No, it definitely does.
More
engaging posts, of course, asking for them to contribute and engage with that content. Yeah. It's a visual platform, so a big smile, less layers often helps as well.
Take it off. All right, you guys, I'm taking off my top. It's all for the followers.
And it's funny because I have a famous politician in California as a client now, and we do their social strategy, and that's not a piece of advice that I give, but look, influencing the algorithm can be difficult. It's trial and error. Definitely lead with a smile, with your face, definitely, stickers, ask for engagement, put on surveys. Yeah. Because you kind of want people to click on your content or stop. It's all about stopping the scrolling, right? So getting them to interact with that story, with that post is very powerful.
See, I didn't know that we were going to have like a little Q&A about how to build your following.
But nobody can claim that they know the algorithm, including myself, inside out. But we do, over the years, having spent time, with major social platforms, you learn a few things and what works well. Leading with authenticity is what I tell everybody. That's what really resonates with your audience. That's why people come back and watch your show. What you have to say and say it clearly, say it from the heart. And I think that it really relates. People can resonate with that.
Authenticity is the number one factor that I use to qualify any guest that I have to be pretty badass. It's literally the one thing. It's because people are like, oh, well, what type of people are you going to have on your show? Or what are you guys going to talk about? And it really is just, it comes down to, are they authentic? No matter what they're doing in their life, are they authentic? And so I really do want to talk about the Boys of Tomorrow a little bit more because I know that that's something that you're really passionate about. And I feel, as I've researched it more and I see where it's going, I know that part is going to be like your most authentic spot because it came from the fact that you knew that younger generation need to be able to have this outlet early on instead of waiting until they're in this position in a corporate setting and not having that support. So do you feel like that's like your biggest passion right now?
It is. It's where actually I should say that it is often where I spend most of my time. I'll tell you how it happened. So I went to a gala last year, a fundraiser, and that's what they call it here in LA. Where it
gala
was,
or gala.
There you go.
However you want to say it, the gala or the gala.
And basically, it was a nonprofit fundraising for local charities that are hand-selected that can do good work with kids on the ground. So the charity in question was the Transformation Project, and throughout the dinner, I got to meet the founders. It was literally parents of a trans kid in South Dakota that felt, I had a conversation with them, and the dad was, he was like, look, I'm an engineer from the Midwest. I love my child unconditionally. I needed to educate myself in the topic because I wasn't going to let my child down. I needed to support them. So he felt the need to educate other members in the community, other parents that were going through the same thing, and thought that was extremely inspiring. I then also understood that the gala that I was in happens once a year. And there's so many wonderful charities across the States and the world that are underfunded. So I thought I can also be the middleman and fundraise and hopefully pick good causes to go after and support. I got to meet wonderful people that are focused on philanthropy or LGBT activism in LA that I thought that would be an immediate perfect match to get involved. So that's kind of how it started. But I think everybody has a starting place. And I thought, what in the world of social media that I'm so familiar with is missing? So that's how the one-stop shop idea came to really create a global community of voices and let all those friends, all those wonderful men that I admired, men and allies, that I admired over the years, shared their stories. And look, if one kid out there reads and, it helps, I think there's so many teens today that are looking for clues as to how to navigate their lives. And if the one post can help, then hey, the job is done.
Well, I want to touch on that. I love the fact that you're doing and that you recognize that you can help so many by being the middleman, as you said, that if you had your own nonprofit that was just solely focusing on one thing, you're really limiting yourself. And so with you supporting all of these communities, I think that that's wonderful. It's interesting, I don't talk about this enough, and it's probably because it's difficult for me to, even though I've educated myself, the complexity of transgender, I still cannot really wrap my mind around, even though I have friends and even my sibling is transgender. I don't have a close relationship with them. And sometimes I even struggle talking about them. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate, that you worry, what do you call them? And now we've got into the pronouns so much, and it becomes intimidating even for myself, knowing and respecting and loving the trans community. I feel like there's, maybe even educating, not limiting to just the gay or trans community, trying to, and that's why I love having you on here. I didn't expect to talk about this, but there is a bit of ignorance that I still maintain around that subject because I'm fearful to say the wrong thing. And I think a lot of people can be like that because my brother is now a female, and so she is now my sister, but speaking about them is confusing because I actually sent them a photo of them when they were younger, and I was just, and to me they didn't resemble a female or a male in that photo. I was holding them. They were probably like 3 or 4 years old or something. And, but they kind of got upset about it. And, it's like, because it reminded them of being a boy. And so it's really interesting to like navigate down that road. And I'm sure it's like for parents, for the child, for anyone that knows them. So I kind of off on a tangent, but I'm looking forward to, continuing to follow your page and to, maybe even attend a gala like that because I'm interested in being able to interact more and not be, because I am fearful like I said, to say the wrong thing. So I think that, and I bet a lot of people can relate to that,
For
that,
sure.
when we don't know something, we often, and we're fearful of something, we often push off of it. And so maybe you don't disagree with it, but you're not educated enough to, have a reaction or an opinion on something. And so you find yourself just pushing away from it, which can often seem to the person that's going through whatever they're going through is not being supported, and being misunderstood. So I'm really just excited that, there are more people out there, because you're not trans yourself. And so you supporting that community, it really, and then look, it's lent itself to me. And then, it's like, it's really going to have more of an impact when you're able to sort of create this ripple effect where people want to get involved. And, it's like not just fundraising for supporting trans, it's you're supporting everyone.
There's so many different causes, but I love what you said about like it's being compassionate and having the empathy and the curiosity to try to understand. I'm not an activist, and I learn so much every day. I met Jeffrey Marshall at an event, who is the largest trans voice right now on TikTok with millions of followers, and every video he leads with empathy and information, insights, and it's an educational process. I think it's important to be woke today, given that you have a platform and the little that I have. I think it's an educational journey, as long as you show that you're coming from a good place, curiosity, compassion. Because I'm in LA and I meet all these wonderful people that are now in my life. A friend of mine called Avi da Costa, who was an international fashion model and walked catwalks both as a male and a female.
Oh, wow.
Fascinating, because he's also equally attractive in both genders, and the biggest fashion designers booked him for his show. And, we spent evenings chatting about this because I'm so curious. Look, you have a family member, and I didn't know that, right? That it's in your life, and you're looking to understand more. And for me, it's just, to understand and ask those questions. And he is more than willing to tell me about it, because, he knows that it's coming from curiosity, from wanting to understand.
The curiosity. I mean, and I don't know if whatever. It's like, I'm going to name drop. I consider them my friends. No, it's okay. I consider them my friends. Gigi Gorgeous, Nat Sketty. I knew Nat's before, I get nervous when I say things. Before she transitioned to a male. And it was really hard for me, because I've known Nats as a female. And then even when I would say, oh, I was at a party, and I said, oh, she just went over there. And it was very quickly after, this, like the transitioning. And so I felt like, it was jarring, because, and I know that they don't mean to, try to correct you or whatever, but it's so intimidating for me. But I've been really lucky, like you said, living in Los Angeles, the community and the experience that I have, and getting to meet these people and understanding these beautiful stories. I mean, I know Gigi has done amazing things for the community. She has a beautiful following, and she just kind of gave that glamorous look to it. And so it's like, I think that opened people's eyes up, and they felt, when something is like attractive and,
happy
bubbly
and joyful.
and
I love it. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like you're gravitating towards it. And then all of a sudden you want to be part of it. And so I think that I definitely gravitated towards her. But there was always this, kind of, and she was friends with my ex, and that's how I met them. And so I often was just kind of, I maybe even, I wonder if I felt out of place just because I was just worried and wanted to make sure that I never offended anybody. But I love that family. I mean, the Getty family, it's like, August is a good friend of mine. I don't know if you've ever met August, but you would love August. He is just, this ray of light. And so, yeah, living in LA, you get to meet incredible people that have these really, really intricate stories. And, you watch them. Sometimes when you meet them, it's like I'm meeting someone as a female and then they become a male. And it's like being able to be a part of that is incredible, and trying to find, because then it was something that helped me understand my brother, my sister now. But it is, it's just having the curiosity, the compassion, like you said. And so I often try to use myself as an example when someone else, I'm from the South. So when someone else doesn't seem to understand, or they have a negative opinion about something, I can relate to both sides, because the fear of knowing how to interact, I can imagine how they have a fear, because they haven't been able to experience like these people and their world. And so I have, and that's the part that I think helps me like be like, oh my gosh, like I love this story. It's like a fairy tale, of like them just, really becoming exactly who they've always felt that they were. And that's all it really is.
And so admirable.
Yeah,
And I think Gigi is a pretty good example who's pretty badass.
I mean, maybe she'll be on here one day. I don't know.
Yeah,
she
give
had
her
her
a
own.
buzz.
She had her own podcast that was really successful.
But I'm
so
pretty
she might
sure-
be podcast out.
I think Gigi is a great example, only because I think that, now that she's, ray of light, and I don't think that she was always like that. So it's all about the journey. And I know that kids that are DMing me on the Instagram page of the Boys of Tomorrow are saying, how, these stories are helping them to get there. And I think it's a journey, and I think your book covers that beautifully, that, it's, and you said it recently that you don't feel a pretty badass every day, but now you do. And I think helping people to live their authentic self and getting there, it's what's all about.
I absolutely agree. I just got certified for my empowerment coaching.
Congrats.
So thank you. As of yesterday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we definitely have that in common. So it's the whole purpose of this is to educate and empower people to be exactly who they want to be. And so before we go, I want to ask you,
Of course.
what do you think makes you pretty badass?
Oh my God.
It can be one word. It can be, a paragraph. It can be whatever it is that you want to share with everyone that you really feel like makes you pretty badass.
It's probably going to be a long-winded answer. As
Okay.
Well, I grew up religious. I'm spiritual, but I wake up every day wanting to be a better version of myself, whether it's a better friend, a better brother, a better strategic, creative person for a client, or, how can I make that page better? I think wishing because I feel that I am a working project, and I think a lot of people might relate, and I think I strive to do better. I do wake up feeling pretty badass sometimes. I'm here. Sometimes I don't, and that's okay. But I focus on a few things that help me get there. I used to overlook physical exercise completely as, I'm busy, I'm working. No, it's beyond getting your pecs to look better. It does wonders for your mental well-being. Yes. And I don't overlook it. I go to the gym often. I meditate. I spend a lot of time on Meta, and I discovered virtual reality. So I have a favorite app called Trip, TRIPP, and I meditate in space with beautiful music, and I think it's so soothing. So there's
I'm gonna have to look for this.
I'll bring my goggles over. You have to try.
Okay. And there's goggles too?
Yeah, well, the
VR like kind of thing.
Yeah, headset that you have to access that metaverse.
Oh. Yeah. So that probably, gosh, we'll go down a whole nother literally trip if we get into this. But I definitely advocate for ketamine infusions. And then since I stopped doing the ketamine infusions because I don't feel like I need them any longer, because I was able to heal and cure my depression. And that is something that I don't talk about enough. Doctors say, you cannot cure depression. You just treat it. I am living proof. I cured my PTSD, my depression, my anxiety, no longer take medication. But what I do now is I microdose with mushrooms. So I feel like this trip thing might kind of
really
coincide.
Go hand in hand.
So I'm going to be looking for that. No, I think what you said about being like what makes you pretty badass, it sounds like you found balance. And, you were overlooking, you said, the physical activity, and that definitely is all part of it. It's really, like I created that mental health roadmap, exercise, eating right, treatments at the time when I wrote the book. And it's really incredible. And I should reread it just to kind of remind myself how far I've come. That I said, I hope one day that I will not have to take antidepressants. And I thought it wasn't something that would ever really happen. And I no longer take antidepressants. So, and I'm, and it's not like my life has just been perfect. I mean, I've had some really, really, really challenging times getting out of an extremely toxic, narcissistic relationship. And so I got knocked on my ass a few times and thought, oh boy, is this going to be the beginning of a new depression? And it wasn't. It was just sadness, some very difficult times. Definitely, eventually I'll share some of the very, very extreme toxic moments that I had, which then in turn scared me that I was like, am I the narcissist? Am I the toxic person? But it was reactions, and luckily I'm not as, I'm crazy. I'm pretty crazy, but
You're pretty badass.
I'm pretty badass, and now I'm pretty freaking healthy. So,
can I just say, I love how transparent you are with the journey and how the ketamine treatment helped you get there. I read research the other day that the synthetic version of the active component in that it's right now being researched and probably to be released this year for PTSD
Amazing.
treatment. And so I think the world is definitely opening up to new treatments, and you're living proof that it's really worked for you.
Thank you. It works on 70% of people. And so I am very, very grateful that I was part of that percentage. And, my ketamine doctor is going to be on here in a couple episodes. So that is going to be incredible, because there's so much research and proof that it's saving lives. I mean, I would not be here today if it wasn't for finding that treatment. So that's things that I will talk about in depth later, but
I'll be tuning in just because I'm so interested. Anything that involves psychology and helping people get better, new treatments. I'm just fascinated about the topic, so I'll be tuning in.
Well, I'm so glad that you will, and thank you for being on the show and sharing your story and being brave enough to speak up, and then creating this place that is going to help fundraise and really just help the community and be the voice. So thank you, everyone. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, follow, put the links below, follow Rafael.
No matter the wave I'm riding, tell me have you decided? 'Cause either way